monitor the Q&A function throughout the meeting and pass along their questions to the presenters. If your specific question is not addressed during the discussion, it could be because the meeting hosts want to reserve the right to address certain questions in an offline discussion, or perhaps your specific question was combined with others on the same topic. In any case, if you believe your question was not adequately addressed, please email us and the Mass Youth Soccer staff will follow up. And for those of you in person, please wait to be called upon by the chair. Let's be respectful of one another's rights to contribute to the discussion today. We will be utilizing Nemo Vote as our voting app today. More on that from Rob shortly. If you haven't downloaded the annual program reports, financial reports, and other presentation materials for this meeting previously, they are available on the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page. I think the URL for that is on the screen here. Also, when our virtual attendees joined today's meeting, you were asked to make certain changes to the name section of your webinar link. Please list your organization name first and your name second. And again, full disclosure, today's meeting is being recorded. A few housekeeping items while we await our Credentials Committee report. These next two slides will simply lay out for you the topics and the order of business for today's AGM. I'm not going to read them. You can take a look. I'll leave each slide up for a couple seconds. So as you just saw, we have a lot on today's agenda. But before we get going, I'd like to take a moment to remember those in our Mass Youth Soccer community that we lost during the past year, some of whom we've listed here. And while they may have passed, we will not forget them, nor their contributions to our association and our sport. So please join me for a moment of silence as we remember and honor the friends and members of our soccer family who left us during this past year. Thank you. Before we begin the business portion of today's AGM, I'm very happy to welcome as our guest today, Alex Klosterkemper, founding member of Sports Impact Group, an organization that brings together passionate professionals to effect positive social impact through sport. Sorry about that. Alex has served as the head of FIFA's World Cup office in 2006 and 2010. He currently serves as the Chief Impact Officer for Boston 2026. Alex, please join me on stage. We're very happy that Alex can join us today to talk about his current focus on legacy planning from the upcoming 2026 World Cup competition.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. As you can see, I'm overdressed. I've been 30 years in soccer, but I was never a soccer player. So I'm used to still come with suits, and actually I left the time for meetings like this, so apologies. They've already quickly introduced myself. Worked for 30 years in soccer, the early days of the Champions League, and then the World Cup office. Worked for FIFA for 7 years, the 2006 and 2010 World Cup. I was heading at the World Cup office. But I only have 15 minutes, so I'm not going to talk about my history, but I want to quickly see, show of hands, who has been to a FIFA World Cup? I know, sorry for the guys online, can't see it. So I just quickly want to kind of think about the memories that we have from past World Cups. And you don't have to be at a World Cup, that's the beauty of it. You don't have to go to World Cup, you see it on TV. So even those that haven't been, think about those memorable moments. I'm going to erase the first slide so that we get to some of the stuff that you might be looking for. You all know this is the biggest competition in the world. It outscores every other major competition, the Olympics, the Tour de France, all of that. It's just nothing like it than the World Cup, because there's nothing like it than soccer. It's a global game, played by everybody, watched by everybody around the world. Nobody else can do that. So we know we're going to have probably about 1.5 billion people somehow touching the World Cup. We also know, as probably most of you know, this is a new format of the FIFA World Cup. We've got 46 teams instead of 22 teams, so more matches, bigger stadiums. So we know we're going to have the highest attendance in the World Cup, with about 5.5 million people at the stadiums and again, you probably all know that, in 3 countries, Mexico, Canada, and the US, in 16 host cities, 2 in Canada, 3 in Mexico, 11 in the US, and one of them is Boston. So I said in 48 teams, 105 matches, 104 matches, so a lot of soccer coming next summer here. So Dave was seeing that, he's like, what is that? That's the match schedule. So these are the 104 matches that are going to be played. And while this is up and you can't really read it, I'm going to talk about a lot of things that are related to the match schedule. One is qualifiers, as you probably know, are already going on. So we already start to see which teams are dropping out. We already know China is not going to play. They're out of the qualifiers in Asia. So all the different confederations are already playing their qualifiers. The final qualifiers actually are after the draw, but most of the qualifiers are done by the end of this year. November 16, I think, is the last international match day. That's when we're probably going to know about 42 of the 46 teams. There's 2 playoffs. So by November, we know which teams are going to come. Then there's going to be the draw in December. And why am I saying that? Because Dave said, don't talk about tickets, but I'm sure you want to know about tickets. So I'm going to talk quickly about tickets. This is going to be sold out multiple times. So it's going to be really hard to get tickets. In the past, FIFA has done lottery. They haven't announced how they're going to do ticketing for this one. Is it dynamic pricing or is it lottery? I hope it's lottery, because then we don't have the prices like the Super Bowl, where even the cheapest ticket is $2,000. That's what FIFA tried to avoid in the past, that there's still fixed prices for the different categories. So if you want to get tickets, it's probably going to be lottery. They're going to start probably the ticket sales before the draw, which makes it really hard, because then you don't know which team you're going to see. But there's be different rounds of when you can apply for tickets, and go to FIFA's website. You can already register for their mailing list, and then you get alarms when those draws or when those tickets become available. There was also a question before. Some of you might have seen Hospitality is already doing reserve your ticket, or what is it called, Tony? I think it was pre-registration. So Hospitality, you can register right now. They're going to be expensive, promise you that, but it could be a guarantee to get a ticket, because they are going to be sold probably on dynamic pricing. So that, just quickly to ticketing, if anybody was interested. One other little fun thing about this match schedule that I always like to say, there's 3 teams that we already know where they're going to play: US, Mexico, and Canada, because they're already qualified. We know the US is going to start in LA, go to Seattle, go back to LA. If the US is the best 3rd place team in their group, they will play the round of 32 in Boston. So I don't know if we want to hope for that, because that's a tricky one. I would rather have the US be first in the group. But anyhow, so we do have a round of 32, and we have a quarterfinal here in Boston. So that's really, really exciting. 7 matches in total here in Boston. And with that said, I'm going to talk a little bit about Boston and us. We at Boston 26, that's how we call ourselves, we're a nonprofit organization that was just founded to organize the World Cup here in Boston. We have responsibilities, we have responsibilities for operations, marketing, communications, impact and legacy, and finance and fundraising. Our main stakeholders, and this is where it gets really interesting, is obviously FIFA. It's the federal and the local government, it's the stadium authority, and it is local organizations like transport authorities or grassroots organizations that we want to work on legacy. I'm going to quickly go through all of them very quickly. And one important thing here is we as Boston 26, we are not responsible for what's going on in the stadium. We are responsible for everything that goes on in the host city, in the region, and we consider New England our region. That is what we want to impact with the World Cup. FIFA will control everything that happens in the stadium. FIFA will control the teams, anything that's on the field of play, anything that's happening in the stadium. They're renting the stadium from the Crafts Group for the 30 days, plus exclusivity front and back, and then they take over the stadium and then control that. We're responsible for everything around it. And that includes security, and that's not just security like the stadium, that's security of the training sites, that's security in the fan fest, all the security. Medical, we're not just responsible for medical for the players, but also for the spectators, mass casualties. So there's a lot of planning going into security and medical, as you can imagine. We don't want any bad publicity going on. Transport, really big challenge for us because Gillette Stadium is built for 90% self-drive. We know we're going to have international fans coming and they want to take public transport to the stadium. So that's a big challenge for us to figure out how we're going to get people without cars to the stadium. Volunteers, it might be interesting because I'm sure you're all thinking, how can I get involved? If I can't get a ticket or it's just a lottery, can I volunteer? Yes, you can apply. Again, it's going to go through a FIFA portal, not opened yet, but there are possibilities. The portal will be opened. I think, again, you can already register at FIFA's website to be a volunteer. The volunteers will be both in stadium as well as around the city. So currently we're calculating with about 15,000 volunteers during the World Cup. And then celebration, and I want to talk a little bit more about celebration because we had already a lot of questions from you guys about public viewing. So celebration, we call it Celebration 26 because we also have we can't pronounce it, 250-year, that's something. 250 years is going to happen. We know we're going to have tall ships. We have Pride Month. So there's a lot of events going that we're trying to combine with the celebration. Again, the region for us is New England. We're thinking of arts and culture events. We're thinking of family and youth-friendly events, and obviously the public viewing concept. We're working on that public viewing concept. There's probably going to be 3 main components of it. One is the FIFA Fan Festival that probably some of you have heard. That's the official FIFA public viewing site. Well, it will be in Boston. We don't know the exact location yet. We're working on it. City Hall Plaza will be involved in some shape or form, but then that's not big enough. So we're trying to figure out where else we have that fan festival. We're also planning on some regional fan zones. We know that Providence is going to be really important in terms of fans staying there. So there might be a fan festival in Providence. There might be one in Worcester. We're working on that on that plan. We're also working on public viewing guidelines. And that's kind of where I think some of you might be interested is like, can we show the games at our field or wherever? So we haven't got the guidelines from FIFA. To do public viewing, you need to get a license from FIFA. We are working on getting a manual and get it out to you because that's really where the World Cup comes alive. You make it alive in your communities. If you can do activities around it, that's how I remember World Cups when I was a kid. I watched the game and afterwards I tried to simulate what the guys were doing. So we'll work with Rob and his team on providing you those guidelines once we have them. Marketing communications, we obviously have a website, we have an Instagram, we have a media at fwcboston.com. If you guys have any stories that you say, hey, that's a great story to tell around the World Cup, if you're doing something unique, send us an email. We love to promote what you guys are doing. This is what it's all about. It's about you playing soccer. So just think about it. If you have a question, that's our email. We're trying to really push the game further with this World Cup. Impact and legacy. That's what's close to my heart. Really, why are we doing this? What is the legacy we're going to leave behind? We obviously want to have the least amount of environmental impact, but the highest amount of economic and social impact, and really trying to help the work that you guys are all doing. So I know that I have limited time. Otherwise, I would ask the room, what are you hoping to be the legacy? But maybe during lunch, tell me what you think this World Cup will leave behind. We know that 94, the legacy of 94 was the MLS, was the US Soccer Foundation, really put soccer on the map in the US. I think that was a pivotal moment. What is 26 going to be? I think that's a big question. For us at Boston 26, just quickly on the economic impact, we've done 2 studies. One is done by FIFA, one was done by the Crafts Group. The economic impact is about $1.1 billion just by the additional activities that are going to happen around the World Cup. There'll be 5,000 jobs. That's one job year. 2.1 million fans coming here. So we know we're going to have an economic impact. We're trying to work on how do we make that also for more local and small and minority-owned businesses, because we know a lot of the 1.1 billion will go to the bigger businesses, to hotels, and so on. But we know we're going to have an economic impact. On the social and the sports side, we as Boston 26 see ourselves more as a catalyst, a convener, a communicator, really telling the stuff that you guys are all doing, the grassroots organizations, that the organizations using sport for good. So what we want to do is really enable more access to play, maybe fields. I think you've been shared, or there was an email about mini pitches. So we've signed an MOU with the US Soccer Foundation. They will provide matching funds. We have in our sponsor packages, I'm going to talk about fundraising in a second. In our sponsor packages, each sponsor will finance 1 mini pitch. So we're hoping to build at least 20 mini pitches in the lead up to the World Cup, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. So it's spaces, but it's also, transport and fees, and how can we get more funding into sport, because we know that is always a burden or a hindrance to kids playing. Increased resources, staffing, coaches, referees, volunteers. We hear it. I've heard it from a lot of organizations. That's what you all need. So we're trying to help really raise that awareness that there is more funding needed for sports. I always use the analogy, the healthcare industry raises $12 billion a year. $12 billion a year, St. Jude's alone, $2 billion. Why can't we raise 100,000 for something that gives a bigger return of investment with kids playing sports? So that's what we're passionate about. We're trying to help you raise those funds and resources. How? That's the challenge. Obviously, we have a valuable product. However, FIFA limits the amount of fundraising we can do. FIFA obviously has their partners. There's 40 partners. That's their exclusive partners. There's the Coca-Cola, the Budweiser's, the Adidas. We can sell host city supporter donors outside that exclusive group. It's not that easy because we don't have a lot of assets, but we're trying. And at the same time, I think on the impact side, we will find people that want to support the work that you guys are all doing. We also do rely a lot on federal, state, and local funding. So security, that budget alone is somewhere in $500 million for the entire tournament. So you might have heard there's a task force now at the White House that's hopefully unleashing some of that funding for security federally. Same with state and local governments. We need their help to provide the security, the medical, the space, and so. How am I doing on timing? Are we good? Sorry, this was quick, but I know you have a full agenda. I hope it gave you a snapshot. I'll be here at lunch, so ask me any questions. Also, info@fwcboston.com if you have any questions, send us an email or have Rob give you my contacts. Thank you, everybody.
Alex, thanks for taking the time to speak to our membership today and offer your insights into what we can achieve working together to optimize positive impacts from hosting the World Cup here in Boston next year. Okay, I'd like to turn things over to Rob Holiday, our Executive Director, who will briefly run through the NEMO vote process we'll be using today.
Sorry, trying not to run in front of the camera for the webinar. All right, so now is the time to log on to NEMO Vote. We're going to run a test vote. So Jamie Balboni and I will be walking through the process today. We'll give folks about 30 seconds just to make sure that they're logging on. I can see there's already 30 of the 54 delegates who received credentials who are on. Those of you who are not on yet, please make sure you click on the link. It is provided on this slide here, but will have been emailed to you as well. All right, Jamie, I believe we are good to open the first vote, please. This vote will be used to establish a quorum. You may need to refresh your screen or click on the blue tab that has popped up at the bottom of your screen in order to vote. The vote is open. We'll give you about 30 seconds to complete the voting process. We'll close it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The vote has now been closed. We appreciate the help. We'll provide a credentials report shortly.
Thanks, Rob. Before we dive into the agenda, I'd like to take a few moments to recognize members of our statewide leadership who are attending our meeting today. Our board of directors meets monthly throughout the year to hear reports from the state office staff and to monitor progress on our various strategic and operational initiatives. We are so fortunate to have this amazing collection of talents and experience guiding us and serving our youth soccer community. These valued veterans collectively represent literally decades of service and dedication to Mass Youth Soccer. Each of them provides an invaluable link to the past that helps inform our current decision-making. They truly make us better. Our competitive leagues are led by some of the best operators and strategists in the Mass Youth Soccer family. They devote untold hours to registration matters, scheduling, administering league rules and procedures, and of course, running our flagship event, the Mass Tournament of Champions. Our state office staff are the true superstars behind our success, performing all of the planning and back office tasks necessary for the seamless running of all of our programs, from registration to player and participant safety, to programs like Top Soccer, ODP, and District Select, to coach development and training. They do make us who Mass Youth Soccer is. And I'd like to take a moment to extend a special welcome to our newest addition to the state office staff, Michael Bruno, our new Director of Operations. Raise your hands, people, to see who you are. Bruno, yes, he goes by Bruno, takes the helm from Marcus Cole, who left us recently to pursue opportunities in Tennessee closer to his family. On behalf of the entire Mass Youth Soccer community, I'd like to offer our heartfelt thanks to Marcus for all he did in the short time he was here, and wish him and his family all the best in this next chapter of their lives. Okay, again, good morning, and we really appreciate you joining us here today at the AGM. Every year, this meeting provides an opportunity for our leadership team to engage with our entire membership, town programs, clubs, and affiliated leagues. Today, we'll report on some of our accomplishments during the past year, our 50th, and share with you all our plans and goals for the coming year and beyond. I'm excited that we're meeting face-to-face today with this hybrid virtual format. With the virtual format that we started during the COVID-19 outbreak, we saw a dramatic increase in member participation. In this gradual return to face-to-face, though, I'm hopeful that membership engagement will continue to grow. I'd like to start my comments this morning by expressing my thanks to several folks who make the business of Mass Youth Soccer possible. Our board, executive officers, and our leagues committee. Thanks for assuming the mantle of leadership and carrying out your significant responsibilities with grace, good humor, and tremendous positive effects. I mentioned our state office staff. They are the true rock stars who keep the proverbial trains running on time. We would certainly be lost without you. To Rich Frangillo, our state referee administrator, and Ellie Nassif, our state youth referee administrator, and to the entire Mass State Referee Committee staff, and to all of our referee assigners, assessors, and mentors. Thank you for your tireless efforts in recruiting, training, certifying, and assigning the hundreds and hundreds of match officials who make our competitions enjoyable for the kids and their families. To our sponsors, thank you for providing us with much needed financial and in-kind support. You are true partners in our mission to grow the beautiful game. And finally, and especially, to the coaches, administrators, referees, and the moms who bring the orange slices, and to all of our volunteers. You represent the very best of what we do. Without you, there would be no us. Last year, we celebrated our first 50 years of organizing and running youth soccer for the kids of the Commonwealth. As we now embark on our next 50 years, we find ourselves being among the very best at what we do, both in the soccer community and in youth sports generally. In my travels throughout the youth soccer community, I am constantly told that we are looked to as thought leaders in how to do it well and how to do it right. While it would be nice to sit back and bask a bit in that position, I'm reminded of something once said by tennis great Arthur Ashe. Success is a journey, not a destination. The doing is often more important than the outcome. So no way are we done realizing our potential or the impact that we can have on our players, families, and community. In his report later, Rob will touch upon some of the association's many accomplishments in 2024. And there were a bunch, but I'm not going to steal any of Rob's and his staff's thunder, which is well deserved. So before looking back, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes now looking forward and examine how together we will make Mass Youth Soccer even better than it already is. Our why remains to deliver responsive and relevant soccer programs to an ever-evolving youth soccer community. This is truly a collaborative exercise, so we will continue to listen to all of you, our customers, to understand what you want. For us, nostalgia is not a strategy. And we have a higher responsibility to lead within the soccer community. One of my favorite authors, Simon Sinek, once said, leadership is not a license to do less, it's a responsibility to do more. We will continue to lead from the front to make soccer the preeminent youth sport in Massachusetts and the US. We only grow the game when more kids and adults become involved and participate longer. Growth for us will come by creating more and better opportunities, not only within our traditional markets, but also importantly, within our currently underserved communities, inner city, rural, handy-capable, and many others. Of particular interest to us here is our partnership with the newly formed Massachusetts Soccer Foundation. There'll be more on that later. We will continue to prioritize safe, healthy soccer environments through robust and effective risk mitigation policies. It's not just about providing soccer programming, it's about providing safe and fun soccer experiences for all. We will remain fully committed to reaching our full individual potential by ensuring that no one is held back. Through the continuing efforts of our DEIB committee, we will shine a light on systemic barriers and break them down. And finally, as Alex mentioned, we live in a truly generational period in US soccer, very unlikely to be repeated in our lifetimes. This year's CONCACAF championships, the Men's World Cup next year, the LA Olympics in 2028, perhaps even a Women's World Cup in 2031. We will continue to partner closely with Alex and his team at Boston 26 and other local, regional, and national efforts to make sure we get a big bump in interest and participation in the beautiful game. As my third year as your president closes, my hopes and expectations remain. Chart a path forward, move there together, continue to lead, and set an example for those who follow. My confidence in our direction is as high as it's ever been. My challenge to you, our membership, is to make this a truly collaborative process. We will be better if we have many contributing toward achieving our shared goals and objectives. So when the call goes out, whether it's helping to coach, becoming a grassroots referee, joining your local organization's board, or just helping out with random stuff that needs doing, let's each of us be the one who says, yeah, it is my job. Thank you. I'd like to turn things over now to our secretary, Dana Santilli, who will deliver our credentials report. Dana?
Morning, everybody. Okay, so from the test vote that we have a total of 32 delegates who were on the test vote, which gives us a quorum for today. And our total weighted score based on the test vote is 128, which results in a simple majority of the voting we have today of 65. Any questions, you can either go to Rob or Gabe and answer those. Thank you.
Delegated like a true committee chair. Skip that. So as Dana mentioned, the selection of directors and officers today requires a simple majority vote. The bylaw amendment on the agenda also requiring a simple majority vote. Two capital expenditure authorizations require a simple majority vote. All right, a copy of the minutes from last year's AGM were made available ahead of this meeting on the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page. The URL for that is on your screen. We have received no comments or corrections. Are there any from the floor? Hearing none, we will consider these minutes presented approved by general consent. We have no unfinished business carried over from last year's AGM, so we can move on. As I mentioned, the financial reports for our meeting today are available on the Minnesota Soccer website and on the AGM page. I'd now like to turn things over to our treasurer, Thomas Ringler, for his presentation on our fiscal 2024 financial results and our fiscal 2025 business plan and budget. Thomas?
Thank you, Dave. My name is Thomas Ringler. I'm the treasurer of Minnesota Soccer. Today, I'm going to present first a look back. How did we do last fiscal year compared to previous fiscal year? And then at the end, I'm going to look forward and present the budget for this year. Starting with looking back, you can see we saw an increase of our revenues by 1.3 million from 6 million the previous year to 7.3 million last year. Roughly 400,000 of that, or 30% of that increase, came from our core business, membership and programming, and was really evolved as expected. So we were able to increase our membership and also expanded our programs. The big increase this year came from unexpected success in fundraising and in massive investment gains. The investment gains were really driven by last year's very favorable stock market development, and this had a significant impact on our revenues for last year. Now, this is something we cannot expect to repeat year over year. So as you can see then next in the budget review, we do not plan for these massive investment gains every year. So while revenue was exceeded our expectations by far, on the other hand, our expenses were right where we planned them for last year. Actually was slightly below our budget. It increased by 800,000 from 4.1 million to 4.9 million. And as I said, right within our budget, slightly below budget. And the increase was mainly driven by merit increases for our staff and the expansion of our programming. Now, obviously, when you exceed your revenue expectations and at the same time you're spending right where you planned it in your budget, our profits increase from year over year. And as you can see, we increased our profits by 500,000 from 1.9 million to 2.4 million last year. Which was a good result for the state association. And typically what we do with these additional funds, we put it in our investment fund so we can actually fund projects in the future. Now looking into this year, into our budget, you see a big drop in our revenue expectations, 7.3 down by 1.6 million to 5.7. The main driver, as I mentioned that before, we had a huge investment gain and very successful fundraising year. We typically are very conservative when we plan our revenues, so we do not expect that these investment gains are repeated this year. And we also have lower targets for our fundraising efforts. In addition to that, we are always very careful how many memberships we plan. There is a very uncertain landscape. Clubs come and go, associate with us, and disassociate with us, so we were always very conservative. That's why our budgeted revenue for this year is 5.7 million only. At the same time, we budget an increase in our expenses by roughly 500,000, from 4.9 to 5.4 million, against mainly driven by merit increases, inflation, and there is an ongoing expense for compliance, insurance premiums are going up. Those are the main driver for our increased expenses. We always make sure, and obviously, when the revenue come down and expenses go up, our year-over-year profit expectation goes down from 2.4 to only 300,000. But this 300,000 assures us that we are in compliance with our loan covenant, and that's always our main target when we put our budget together. Before I move on, I want to mention one thing off script. We have actually a representative from TD Bank here, James. And I want to point out that TD Bank was really helpful in supporting us moving our original loan for the Mass Development Agency to a private loan, if you will, with TD Bank. And I mention this because our interest rate on this loan is 3%. You compare this to the rates you get today, you're probably thinking more like 6, 7, 8%. It's just the fact that TD Bank supported us saves us $250,000 in interest payments year over year. So that was also helpful to achieve, obviously, our expense budgets. Now, before I move on to my final comments, I'm just pausing for a second. Are there any questions? Is there online, Rob?
No questions submitted.
So no questions. So first of all, I want to thank Tara Petrica, our finance director. She is really managing our books. She's very diligent, always on time. Without her, that would not be possible to put these numbers together. And I also want to mention one more thing that's really close to my heart. And I have to be careful that I'm going to make it through. Derek Smith was my predecessor. And when I took over the role as a treasurer, Derek was managing the books for 8 years prior for me taking over. And those books were squeaky clean. It was really easy for me to take on my role as treasurer. Derek stayed actually still involved with the accounting of Matthew Soccer, and all the way to his unexpected and breakthrough passing. He was very much involved. And not only with Matthew Soccer, he was involved with a lot of other things. I want to mention one thing. 2 weeks. Well, Derek called me 2 weeks before he passed, and mentioned he just got some bad health news. He was still, he was not whining. He's not, oh, why did it hit me? He was actually, as the fact, he said, and I'm just telling you because I think I'm going to be late by a day with the report I owe you. Of course, after I insisted heavily, pause and take care of your health, he let go. But this is just a little piece what kind of person Derek was. His strength all the way to his passing is unbelievable. And I pray to God every day, if I get to the same situation, or when I get to the same situation, that I have the same strength as Derek. This was a little bit long, maybe longer than my presentation, but I worked so closely with Derek, and I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. As I mentioned at the outset of our meeting, the annual program reports are available on the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page. Again, you'll see the link here on your screen. We're not going to have any detailed presentations from the program leads today. Rob will touch on some of the key developments and accomplishments later in his executive director report. Our SYRA, Ellie Nassif, who's with us today. There he is. Again, Ellie has submitted his report for this meeting, which is available on the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page. I again thank Ellie and the entire MSRC community for their dedication and great work on behalf of kids of Massachusetts. Now for the good stuff. I'll turn things over to Rob, our Executive Director, for his presentation and a look back at a very successful 2024.
Thank you, David. I'm going to be close to the mic so that people on the webinar can hear. I do fear that David may have oversold my report a little bit. However, there are a couple of mentions that I will make before we move into some of the policy changes and safeguarding initiatives that we'll be implementing for this spring season. So as David mentioned, there's been many successes for Mass Youth Soccer over the past year. It's been an incredible year, but we don't continue to progress and move forward by simply celebrating our successes. So I prefer to move forward and look at the opportunities on the horizon, of which there are many, and almost all of them are because of our collaborations with the wider soccer network. And that's these people in the room, those on the webinar, people like Alex and the Social Impact Group at Boston 2026, and our peers at the new Boston Soccer League, for example. I'd be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank our incredible staff. I am so privileged to work alongside a group of people with so much care, dedication to what they do. So thank you. A little round of applause to our staff. Truly an honor to have the opportunity to work with you. The other thing I'd like to mention is Derek Smith and Steve Smola. For those of you who knew them, you could not meet two polar opposite personalities, but both of them were involved with Mass Youth Soccer when I first connected with the association, and I couldn't be more grateful for their contributions, which were magnificent. Truly just special people, and their contributions won't be forgotten by the association, and we are very grateful to have had the honor to know them. All right, so for those of you who saw the news last night, you may know that safeguarding in soccer is still an important priority. We've made a lot of progress, but there is an awful lot of work to do, and the safety and well-being of our players and those who participate in the game is the non-negotiable for Mass Youth Soccer. As part of updates to help prevent referee abuse, US Soccer has implemented changes to Policy 5319. That is the policy that refers to all misconduct towards referees. This policy only covers registered participants. That is players, coaches, and registered adults such as board members or club officials who may be around the game. Mass Youth Soccer, at our most recent board meeting, voted in policy to extend the same minimum penalties that are provided in the Policy 5319 updates to spectators at all Mass Youth Soccer sanctioned events. Policy 5319 now also includes a category of misconduct titled gross misconduct, which will include the insulting, belittling, insinuating, or taunting behavior which undermines the authority of the referee. Previously, these categories of behavior were dealt with by league rules and policy. That will now be superseded by Policy 5319. As you can see from the slide on the screen, the minimum sanctions for these types of behaviors have been increased significantly. Of note to the youth soccer community is a minor multiplier, which will triple sanctions for any misconduct towards referees if it is a minor referee. Any participant who is alleged and found guilty of misconduct towards a referee, that is a minor, will receive a minimum 6-game suspension. That suspension will apply across all US soccer affiliated players. So if they are a referee or an adult player or a coach in another league, that suspension will carry across all leagues. Mass Youth Soccer knows that this implementation will be challenging. We've worked with the leagues at the Leagues Committee to try and assist the processes as much as we can and take the heavy lift. The message we need to send to our participants, that's our coaches and our players, and our town and club programs, is that abuse will not be tolerated. We are really delighted that there's additional teeth to this policy that will help stamp out behaviors that have become far too normalized in youth soccer. We have a website page that's just been loaded. If you go to Mass Youth Soccer under the referees tab, and Respect the Call is the name of the tab. US Soccer also has some excellent resources under ussoccer.com/RAP for referee abuse prevention. The other change that we're making this year is we're going to move the handshake of players to pre-game. And this has 2 goals. One, there were 4 incidents of coach-to-player physical misconduct in post-game handshakes last year. There were more than a dozen incidents of racially discriminated language or player-to-player physical misconduct that took place during these post-game handshakes. When you bring players together in an emotional environment, sometimes they make mistakes. Sometimes good people make bad decisions. We're trying to avoid putting them in these situations. More importantly, whenever we message around the expectations of what youth soccer environments should look like and the behavior of spectators, coaches, and players, and we do so electronically, the message is not getting through to the people it needs to. We can send 200,000 emails out about our partners. 50% of people open them and use a coupon. When we send an email out, we post on social media about referee abuse and the prevention of it, 10% of people open. So to reinforce the message at every single Mass Youth Soccer sanctioned event, we're now going to have a pre-game sportsmanship statement. This statement will be read by a representative of the home team. The players will walk across the field with the referee or referee crew, all substitutes and coaches included, after all of the pre-game requirements are completed, so the coin toss, check-in, etc. They will line up about 5 yards away from the sideline of the spectators, and a representative of the home team will read this announcement. It can be a player, it can be a coach, it can be a parent or spectator. Again, the important piece is we have to set the tone of the expectation for what youth soccer environment should look like. Any of you who saw the news yesterday know that that type of behavior needs to be stamped out, and we can do better. It's going to take collective accountability of everybody in this room. I appreciate your support on these matters and wish you all a very good spring season. All right, we are now going to move into the voting portion of today. So we're going to do our second test vote just so everybody is primed on Nemo vote again. Jamie, if you could open up the next test vote. Again, please go to the Nemo vote URL. One important call out with regard to the majorities. The votes will be tallied based on those who are present and voting. There are some proxies that have been provided, which are only provided for capital expenditure votes. So there may be some different tallies in the total voting weight. The vote is now open. Please hit refresh on Nemo vote. Or click on the blue tab on the bottom. We'll give you 15 seconds to review. All right, JP, please close the vote. Thank you very much. Pleased to report that everybody except one person got the 3 countries hosting the World Cup in 2026. It is not being hosted in Brazil. Right.
Thank you, Rob. As many of you know, our board is staggered, not staggering, or staggered. And that is, we select 4 of our 16 directors every year, each for a 4-year term. And in each year, one of our 4 executives, the president, EVP, treasurer, and secretary, is also elected. At this year's AGM, you will be selecting our Class D directors, including the election of our executive vice president, again, each for a 4-year term ending with the 2029 AGM. Slide indicates the candidates before you today were all vetted and approved by our nominations committee as qualified for their respective roles being sought. Pursuant to our bylaws and the nomination procedure, they are the only candidates who are basically cleared to run today. I'd like to thank the nominations committee members for the really great job they did this year in presenting this slate of candidates for you today. John Renone from our board and chaired the committee. Dave Bolos from our board, Dean Seidel from Essex County Youth Soccer, Greg Koziorik from Neshoba Valley, and Rick Porter from Central Mass. Under our bylaws, individual candidates can self-nominate by following a clear process we've laid out there, and no additional candidates have chosen to self-nominate. And again, finally, our bylaws do not allow nominations from the floor of the meeting. 2 of our incumbent at-large Class D directors, Sean Novelli and John Sanders, are seeking re-election. In addition, Jason Smith is seeking a selection to an initial board term. Mike Borislow, former Mass Youth Soccer board member and our immediate past executive director, is seeking election to his initial term as our executive vice president. The candidates' respective bios and submissions have been posted to the Mass Youth Soccer website on the AGM page. Normally, I'd now give each candidate a couple of minutes to address the membership. However, in the interest of time and a nod to their incumbent status, I'm giving Sean and John a pass since they are incumbents seeking re-election. So I'd now like to invite Mike Borislow to the stage to say a few words ahead of the voting. Mike?
Thank you, Dave. I was told to prepare my words and not speak extemporaneously, because those who know me, we would be here for another day and a half. So I do have some prepared words. I guess in anticipation of approval, I'm honored to serve in the position of Executive Vice President on the Mass Youth Soccer Association's Board of Directors. Having dedicated over 25 years to this incredible community, serving on the board for over a decade, and executive director for 9 years, not to mention my previous years on the Essex County Youth Soccer Association Board and Methuen Youth Soccer. I'm deeply committed to the growth and success of our organization. As we move forward, strong leadership and collaboration will be essential. My goal is to help foster a dynamic board that champions bold initiatives, ensuring Matthews Docker remains an open, inclusive, and thriving organization. I'm dedicated to enhancing programs that provide a fun, rewarding, and developmental experience for all players, coaches, referees, and parents alike. By working together, we can strengthen our programs and create an environment where our youth not only exceed in soccer, but also build lifelong skills and a passion for the game. Before closing, I would like to thank Karen Goulet for your many years of service to Matthews Soccer and most previously in this position. I'm honored to contribute my experience, passion, and dedication as Executive Vice President. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. I'd now like to invite Jason Smith to the stage to say a few words ahead of voting. Jason?
Good morning, everyone. A little while ago, I got an email recruiting for this position and had a conversation with Rob and was sold on, I'm not really sure what to do, but being from Boston and wanting to grow the game and make sure that our kids in the city, not just Boston, but anywhere urban, have the opportunity to play this wonderful game that has given me so many lifelong friendships and experiences, is really the reason, starting out in this spot, and why I want to run for the position. And that's why my name's on the ballot. So it's been a pleasure to meet everyone this morning that I've met, and I look forward to working with everybody going forward. Thank you.
Before we get to the actual vote on these candidates, I want to take a moment on behalf of the entire youth soccer community to echo what Mike said at the end of his comments and to recognize and express our sincere gratitude to Karen Goulet for her many years of dedicated service to the association. Karen's stepping down from the Mass Youth Soccer Board and is going to be taking on a initial leadership role with the newly formed Mass Soccer Foundation. Over her tenure, Karen has worn many hats while being instrumental in advancing youth soccer across the Commonwealth, championing initiatives that have expanded access to the sport and enhanced the experience for literally thousands of young players. Among them, State Association Board and Executive Committee membership, most recently as my EVP, President of the Middlesex Youth Soccer League. She's been a tireless advocate of top soccer for many years, and she has brought her professional experience and talents to bear on our human resources and culture functions. Perhaps most notably, though, Karen brings wisdom, empathy, and heart to every decision, always keeping the best interests of our young athletes at the forefront. Her leadership helped guide our league's committee and strengthen the relationships between and among the state office, affiliated leagues, local clubs, and town organizations. Her work and commitment were central in our ability to create more and better opportunities for children of all backgrounds to experience the joy of soccer. Karen's commitment was steadfast in promoting our core mission, which is to serve, educate, and provide safe soccer play for all. Her contributions, which are way too many to even start recounting here, have left an indelible mark on our association. And while we'll miss Karen's presence on our board, her legacy will continue to benefit our soccer community for years to come. And as I said, fortunate for us, though, she's not going away. And And I'm thrilled to report again that she is taking the lead role in the organization and launch of the Mass Soccer Foundation. Karen, we wish you the very best in all your future endeavors, especially with the success of the new foundation. And we all look forward with great anticipation to watch the next chapter develop. Okay, first, we're going to proceed with the vote to elect Mike Borslow as the Executive Vice President and a Class D Director. Rob?
Thank you, folks. David and I will tag team now in the interest of expediting these votes a little bit. So please open the Nemo Vote app. Jamie will open the vote and we'll give you 30 seconds to provide your vote. While that was going on, I will mention there were several comments in the Q&A function for you, Karen, as well. Thank you. All right, Jamie, you may close the vote, please. The vote was unanimous with 100% in favor of the election of Mike Borslow. Congratulations.
Next, we will proceed with, congratulations. Sorry. All right, next we will proceed to vote to select each of Sean Novelli, John Sanders, and Jason Smith as Class D at-large directors. Since they're running unopposed for the 3 open slots, we will vote on the slate as presented rather than individual votes for each candidate. I'll turn things back over to Rob.
Thank you. Jamie, please open the vote. Vote is now open. Five more seconds. And please close the vote. Vote has been closed and once again is unanimous 100% in favor of the election of state candidates.
Congratulations, Sean, John, and Jason. Okay, before we get to any new business items from the floor, we have 3 matters on this morning's agenda for consideration by the membership. The first is to approve certain changes to our bylaws dealing with our board committee structure. The description of the changes is included in the presentation materials for this meeting and is available on the Matthew Soccer website on the AGM page. I'll note that there's one correction in the materials as they appear on the website. If approved, this amendment to the bylaws will take effect immediately following the 2025 AGM. That's this one, not 2024, which is what it says in the materials. And your board of directors is recommending the membership approve these proposed changes. We have okay. May I have a motion that the proposed amendments to our bylaws as presented to this meeting with an effective date following the 2025 AGM are adopted and approved? Do I have a second? Seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing no further discussion either from the floor or from the Q&A. The question is called. Under section 9.02 of the association's constitution, approval of these proposed bylaw changes requires the affirmative vote of a majority of the voting interests of the delegates and or authorized member representatives and the directors present and voting at this meeting.
Thank you. Jamie, please open the vote. You'll get much quicker vote. Give you 5 more seconds. And please close the vote. The motion passes with 142 total voting weight in favor and 1 against.
Thank you. The remaining matters involve requests for membership approval of 2 proposed capital expenditures exceeding $100,000 each, as required by section 4.06 of the association's constitution. The first request for membership approval of the capital expenditure for funding the installation of field lighting and associated infrastructure and amenity improvements at SBLI Fields at Progen Park. The state office has provided detailed information on this project prior to today's AGM through both notices and video presentation. The board of directors considered and approved the proposed lighting project installation and is recommending approval of the membership for these capital expenditures to fund the project. May I have a motion that a capital expenditure of $1.8 million to fund the proposed lighting installation is authorized, approved, and adopted in all respects? Is there a second?
Second.
To open discussions, I want to turn things back over to Rob for a quick recap of the proposed lighting project details.
Thank you, David. So to clarify, there is no impact on member fees, either current or future, as a result of any of these capital infrastructure projects. The proposal to install lights on the 5 turf fields is something we would have liked to have done when Progen Park opened, but unfortunately technology at the time and the lights village led to our immediate residential abutters being able to put a stop to that. By installing lights, we create more opportunities to play, and we also provide a greater potential for the facility to bring in revenue and become an additional profit generating arm for the association, which we can then reinvest back into players. It also will support both Mass Youth Soccer's own programs and those of the membership that we host at Progen Park. So we're very excited about the potential of this and appreciate the support of the membership. Jamie, any questions?
Confirming, has an environmental study been done to assess the impact of the lights?
Yes, so we're working with Musco Lighting, who does the environmental impact study. They actually work with a specialist group with regard to the light impact, both locally So that has been done or will be done by Musco as a part of the installation and is a requirement of the town approval process. With no further discussion, I would ask that the vote is opened, please. Close the vote in 5 seconds. Please close the vote, Jamie. The vote passes with 142 votes in favor and 1 against. Thank you very much for your support.
Final,
Sorry. My apologies. 138 votes in favor and 4 against. Thank you.
thank you. Final item is a request for membership approval of capital expenditure to fund the acquisition of certain undeveloped real estate adjacent to the SBLI Fields at Trojan Park, known as the back lot. State office has provided detailed information on this project, or this proposed acquisition, I should say, prior to today's AGM through both notices and video presentation. Board of Directors has considered and approved the acquisition of the back lot and is recommending approval of this capital expenditure by the membership to fund the acquisition. May I have a motion that a capital expenditure of $975,000 plus associated transaction costs and expenses to fund the proposed acquisition of the back lot is authorized, approved, and adopted in all respects? Do I have a second? Second. Again, to open the discussion, I'll turn things over to Rob for a very quick recap of the back lot purchase proposal.
Thank you, David. The back lot is essential to the continued ongoing operations of Trojan Park. It provides approximately 50% of our parking, 550 parking spaces, and allows for all 16 fields to be utilized at the same time. This was one of the great unknowns of the association. Long term, there was development work that was due to take place by the ownership group who owned the back lot, and there would have been the potential for a significantly higher capital investment in the future as we look to either develop on our own property or find alternative solutions, which the presentations and videos that were provided ahead of time provided an overview of those different options. Once again, we greatly appreciate the support of the membership in supporting this capital expenditure proposal so that Trojan Park can continue to operate as an ongoing facility. Do you have any questions?
No.
With that said, we will open the vote. You'll be happy to know this is our final vote of the day. Five more seconds. Jamie, please close the vote. The motion passes unanimously with 142 votes in favor. Thank you very much for your support.
On behalf of the board, I'd like to thank the membership for approving these matters and recognizing the value of this investment in the future of our association. Is there any new business to come before the meeting?
Nothing in the Q&A.
Okay, hearing none, we're moving on. As I mentioned earlier, we've continued to build upon our recent successes in establishing and growing many wonderful sponsorships. Rob, you should have stayed here. I want to turn things over to Rob again to recognize our sponsors.
Thank you very much. As Thomas called out, we have TD Bank in the room, so thank you very much for your continued support, James, and your team. We are very fortunate to have many great, wonderful partners for Mass Youth Soccer, and now on the screen as we are now. A special call out to SBLI, the facility sponsorship, which we've been with them just over a year, and are very excited for the potential and long-term opportunities that provides. With all of our partnerships, we focus on a win-win-win. That is, it's not just about a financial transaction and exchange. It's what's in it for the membership and how do they benefit from our partnerships. So we're excited to connect and partner with a group of mostly local companies supporting Massachusetts-based businesses and providing additional benefits for our membership through those associations. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. In a second, I'd like to open it up for anything that anyone might have, either here in Marlborough or online, for good of the game. For those of you participating virtually, please, again, use the Q&A function to submit, and the office staff will present on your behalf. And we'll leave this open for a few minutes to see if we get anything. While we're waiting for that, I have a couple of things I'd like to offer, if I could. Recently, Mass Youth Soccer received a 3-year U.S. Soccer Innovate to Grow grant of $200,000 to establish and fund the Boston Soccer League. This league targets underrepresented areas to increase soccer participation in Boston. The new league will partner with the city of Boston and its neighborhood liaisons to identify recreational programs and target underrepresented areas. The pilot will start this spring under the current leadership of Tammy Endow from the state office. And as I mentioned a couple of times earlier, Mass Youth Soccer is a founding supporter of the new Mass Soccer Foundation, which is formed to be a change accelerator for local communities throughout Massachusetts. The foundation will leverage connections, resources, and influence to strengthen the positive impact of community-based soccer programs and services. We look forward to working collaboratively with the Foundation's leadership team, Karen DeLay, Sean Nabelli, and John Cunningham, as they build out this wonderful initiative. Next month, Mass Youth Soccer is receiving a People of Courage Award from Safe Homes, an organization that provides a safe and supportive space for LGBTQIA+ young people and their straight allies in Central Mass. This award is selected annually by participants in Safe Homes programs. Our DEIB committee organized the Necessities Drive during MTOC in 2023, collecting toiletries and other necessities for the youth that are served by Safe Homes. And this drive was repeated in 2020, at the 2024 MTOC. At least 3 members of our state office staff will be attending the presentation gala next month. On the soccer front, I'd like to give a shout out to Allie Sentler. Allie is a rookie in the NWSL. She's from Hanson, Massachusetts. Played her college soccer at the University of North Carolina. Was the #1 pick in the 2024 NWSL draft. Has had a crazy impactful rookie season with the Utah Royals. And throughout her youth soccer career, when she moved on from Mass Youth Soccer, Allie has played at every age level for our U.S. Women's National Team, including hitting last year her first 2 international caps with the senior team. At the CONCACAF Women's U20 Championship last year, Allie led our team to a 3rd place finish, scoring 3 times. And what's really cool about this is that Allie is the 2nd Mass Youth Soccer alumnus from Hanson, Mass, to win the FIFA Female Player of the Year, the U.S. Soccer Female Player, Young Player of the Year award, following her neighbor, Kirsty Lewis, who won the award in 2008. Our state legislature recently established a task force to begin the process of organizing what will be called the Massachusetts Youth Sports Commission. Mass Youth Soccer have been asked to play a leading role on this task force, which will conduct a broad review of the youth sports landscape and recommend a structure and focus for the new commission. The hope is that this will bring more alignment and coordination between and among youth sports in areas such as player safety and minimum coaching standards. There will be more to report on this after the task force completes its 3 public hearings later this year. Finally, we have a handful of retiring leadership this year in our youth soccer community. I've already mentioned Karen, and I won't embarrass her anymore. But I'd also like to recognize and thank 2 others among many who might be leaving us. One is Dean Seidel from Essex County Youth Soccer League, and the other is Kevin Cantwell from Coastal Youth Soccer League. Both are stepping down as their respective league presidents. Their contributions over the years are, again, too numerous to mention, and they will certainly be missed, particularly on the league's committee. And we wish them all the best and hope they don't wander too far. Is there anything from the floor for the good of the game? All right, there being no other business to come before the association today, I declare the 2025 annual general meeting of Massachusetts Youth Soccer Association adjourned at 11:31 p.m. There will be a